Welcome my friends back to Marvel Snap. Today we are playing Champ or Chump with Phastos, the Eternal's incredible inventor and the latest potential token trap here for you in Marvel Snap. What are all of the details of his ability? Who are his best friends? The trap synergies, the counter cards, and then at the end, is he going to be worth your hard-earned cash keys? And what decks can you begin testing him in? Let's break it all down, starting with that ability and the stat line. 3/3 stat line. Nothing too special, but he comes in swinging with the ability. On reveal, give each card in your deck -1 cost or +2 power. Yes, we are upgrading the deck, and now we have had a lot of similar effects, but not quite ever in this combination before. I will say that effects on this magnitude have often been meta-dominant as they released in this combination, and Phastos is looking really interesting to be able to play around because he is avoiding a lot of the pitfalls that some of the other predecessor cards had before. We had Pixie, who could rearrange the costs in the deck, and we had Mr. Negative that could flip the costs in the deck. And while those cards have remained somewhat present in the meta, they are heavily restricted by deck building restrictions you have to make them work. Phastos avoids all of that. He's able to get a energy cheat into those deck cards that can be applicable to any deck that you play him inside. Also, Pixie is held back by only affecting cards that start in your deck. Phastos has none of this. He just affects all the cards in your deck. That's right, your stones that were given to you by a Hawk player could be made free or made more powerful, so you actually get a benefit from them. Also, the Phastos stones. Oh my gosh. We get to buff the stones. Incredible, incredible. And because he is missing a crucial parenthetical that a lot of almost all energy cheat cards have, there's no minimum. There's no minimum of 1. Those Phastos stones could be free, my friends, all the way back to the Quinjet days, which, if you guys remember, that was quite the deck. Obviously, this is only happening half the time, but especially for Phastos, as we could get free stones that have a built-in draw mechanic or buff stones, that is looking very impressive. I think that both Surfer and Phastos are looking to really stand to gain here because, again, this is coming on the back of the Makari release. 2 cards that seem bespoke made for a Silver Surfer synergy, with that 3/3 stat line obviously being able to be buffed by the Surfer, and a lot of cards in the Surfer deck able to gobble up advantages, compounding advantages on buffing themselves. Let's get right into the friends, or the best synergy cards that we have here. The greatest hits right in front of us right now. Phastos, Surfer. These decks, they just speak for themselves. They are going to be amazing with Phastos, almost on the level that I think if you play Phastos on turn 3, you could just snap. Obviously, the crucial handicap for Phastos is not getting him in time. Not being able to play him on 3 means that you get fewer draws of your improved cards. So if we're playing him on the final turn, we're obviously not getting any benefit. If we're playing him on the turn before the final turn, we only get 1 draw. Is that going to be enough to justify running Phastos in your deck? I think it is ultimately, but that's of course going to be the decision you're going to have to make and what we're going to have to deck build around to see how much consistency and compounding advantages we can find and how solid our plan Bs are going to be. Hi Evo and Arishem also appearing here. A list of big bads, as it were. Arishem coming out next week. I still had to call it out because Phastos is going to be able to buff all the cards that Arishem is adding to the deck, so you're going to get just the maximum range of buffs and benefit from Phastos, and especially because Arishem is also compounding, he's giving you the additional max energy. Getting a little bit of an energy cheat from Phastos could really mean that whatever junk is thrown into your deck, you are going to be able to slam to the board. And then transitioning to High Evolutionary here, it's a deck that loves being able to pass energy on every turn, so having Phastos decrease the cost of a couple cards can allow it to play on tempo or even up tempo, but still have that floated energy to get all the advantages from those engine pieces that they have. Flipping the page specifically to call out the Surfer deck, you have Brood and Shaw that are loving getting tagged by buffs, Makari being able to deliver the buffs free to the board, and then Sarah is something that is kind of always run in this style of deck. Getting compounded benefits from Phastos, we can either have 1 cost, 3 cost cards, with Phastos decreasing the cost and then Sarah decreasing the cost, or we can have this enormously buffed hand of cards that Sarah then allows us to drop down to the board very quickly, a la the Sarah Miracle from way, way back in the day. We haven't seen that style of deck be too successful recently, but Phastos could be the missing piece that it was just waiting to receive, and now is going to be able to jump back up to the forefront. Sarah control decks are doing very well right now, and I think having Phastos as just they're kind of do something in the mid game could be good enough, because with the Sarah deck you often like just sitting back, developing your hand, and then you bring it all forward at the end. Having a little bit more punch could really put us there, and also that discount just opening up extra combos that weren't there before. It's going to be very interesting to watch. Very interesting to watch indeed. Here we get to a little bit more fringe synergies. These are cards that are going to allow us to cycle the deck. And yes, Adam Warlock is actually making an appearance. And yes, I think he could be good. A 5/5 that lets you draw a card if you are winning his location at the end of the turns. Obviously, you probably are only getting one draw off of him in a normal gameplay situation, but when that draw is a discounted and or potentially improved card from Phastos, and Warlock himself could be discounted or improved, we're looking way punchier. The exact same thing with Crystal. Yes, we're giving a draw to our opponent, but we know that our draw is going to be an upgraded card, so it's definitely in our advantage to cycle through the deck in that situation. Jubilee, same thing. If we're pulling a card that is discounted in cost, obviously we're less excited, but if Jubilee herself has been buffed, then we're feeling the power here. And if we're pulling a card that was buffed in terms of power but not decreased in cost, we love it. We absolutely love it. Jane Foster. Probably the most fringe. I was really hesitant on putting her on Friends or on Trap cards, but with the caveat that he can make one-cost cards free, yes, Jane could summon them all to your hand on turn 5 to then just vomit to the board. It'll be very spicy. Obviously, that combo is a little harder to pull off because you have to, the Jane is not going to synergize with other things in the deck unless we're running it in a Thor Beta Ray Bill deck, which could be perfectly fine. A Thor Beta Ray Bill, love being able to have a little bit of extra energy efficiency or punch, and Jane could make that all the more exciting. Rolling over into the card traps. Okoye and Nakia, these cards that are doing kind of the same idea as Phastos, they just don't do it as well. And from all my testing with Makari, nothing was really materializing in terms of the power. I felt like I could do better than running Okoye and Nakia in their respective slots. So even with the advent of Phastos, I think Phastos is more seen as a replacement for these cards rather than something that can work in concert with them to the same game plan. Magic, I think, is just a little slow. We can use her, but also Nocturne is at an all-time meta high and is just going to be canceling those Limbos left and right if the opponent thinks it's to their advantage. So even though Magic lets us get through even more of our upgraded deck, we're going to try and stay away. We want Phastos just to give us a faster, meaner deck within the 6 turns, the standard 6 turns, then rely on Magic to give us extra time to get there. And Moon Girl also is... she's going to be more reliable than it was with Makari, but I don't think that Moon Girling a couple Phastos cards is going to be the way, especially because those Phastos upgraded cards are added to the right-hand side of your hand, and when you Moon Girl, those are the cards that are least likely to get duplicated. If your hand is full, it's going to be a headache to be able to get duplicates of these improved cards, and I think that we can just play, again, a smoother, faster, meaner game plan with Phastos than relying on these pieces. So now let's talk counters and enemies. Mobius M. Mobius makes Phastos half a card. And I think that's something that we're just going to have to live with. All energy cheat strategy decks are having to do that right now, and they are still doing okay. You can also just run Enchantress or Rogue if you feel like it's really a common meta presence or crippling to you. But yeah, Mobius is going to be incredibly powerful, and if you see a rush of Phastos opponents, definitely tech Mobius into that deck. Shang-Chi can potentially get a couple extra targets if they're getting buffed up to 10 or beyond. Yes, I'm looking at you, Mockingbird. You are always right on the threshold. Shadow King is the one that's taking away that other half of Phastos, reducing cards to their base power. So between Mobius and Shadow King, you've got Phastos covered, and both of those are fairly easy to tech into decks at the moment. Sandman, fun tech card, because I'm anticipating a Phastos strategy and gameplay style being holding back, dropping a lot of cards at the end. Sandman says, hey, no fun for you. And Black Widow, denying card draw brutal when the opponent is investing in improving that card draw or trying to play cards like Crystal and Adam Warlock to get that extra draw. Black Widow shutting that off is going to be devastating. Storm finally representing a whole suite of cards that make early tempo matter because, again, Phastos is investing in card draw and then investing in your late game, and in the mid and early game is just not doing as much for you. So if a lane gets stormed and then cut off, your access to that is going to be hard to fight back against that disadvantage. So here we are. We've crunched the data, the numbers. Where are we falling on Phastos, champ or chump? And the verdict is a champ. Yeah, I'm going champ, guys. I've been excited for this card ever since he was first data mined. I did not think that he could possibly release in this state. I thought that they were going to have to either change the ability or change his base power. I am ranking him 3 keys out of 4. This guy is a buy. He synergizes strongly with Makari. The rest of the Eternals, he synergizes with Arishem, with Thanos. All of these things coming together look like he is going to be a awesome card. The only thing holding him back from that 4th key is the stutter steps that you sometimes get with cards like this, where playing him on tempo is so important to get the maximum value, and anything after turn 3 we're seeing significantly diminishing returns on his power level. So that's the only thing holding him back, but I think that those good games when we get him, and a couple decks that when you play him on 3, I do believe you're going to be able to just snap and then carry through the game with the weight of the Phastos momentum is going to be amazing. And then brutally, as we evaluate the entire cache, this is the flip of last week, where Makari was in with incredible teammates. Corvus Glaive and Spider-Ham are really lackluster, especially at the moment. I'm giving Spider-Ham only a single key. I'm not seeing this guy much. He does not feel super worth it to me. Now, if Thanos spikes because of Phastos, I guess Ham would as well. So, sure, you're not going to be sad to have Ham in your collection, but I don't think he's worth going out of your way to acquire if you have limited resources. And Corvus Glaive, this card has all but disappeared in the meta with the nerf to Hela, and then Apocalypse still looking to be able to find his footing. So this is definitely a cache that we're going to be going after Phastos, and then probably as soon as you grab them, you're going to want to conserve keys and then skip out on the rest of these guys. Let's roll over to 2 of the decks. I think that we can start out with Phastos and immediately find some success. As promised, the Makari Surfer deck has been upgraded with all of the lessons that I took from my streaming and testing of Makari over the last week, and upgraded with Phastos. We are now including the Sarah to really double down on the energy cheat. We have cut the Nakia and the Okoye. We are keeping Crystal, cutting Magic, and then taking in Nova Killmonger, including Mobius ourselves. And this deck looks incredible. The Phastos tags on Brood, on Shaw. Guys, Shaw was the standout when I was playing Surfer with Makari. And let me say, playing Surfer with Makari was working for me. It was a slow climb, but it was a climb. And so I think with this Phastos energy bump, this deck is really going to sing. Of course, the Shadow King and the Mobius and the opponents, like the tech cards can stop us, but all around, we're looking really solid here. And again, the 3-cost price point has so much flexibility on being able to alter your deck to answer whatever your opponents have. The shell here is incredible, and I think that this is going to be a really aggressive point-producing machine. If it feels like we're suffering too much from the Shadow King, we can find a way to squeeze in Luke Cage, potentially cutting Mobius, or potentially cutting Crystal, depending on how we're feeling about how energetic our draw is. Next list, and this one is a little bit newer for us, is going to be the Thanos take. So this is my take on Thanos at the moment. A little hybrid zoo energy drop, and yeah, I've got Jane Foster in here for now. I don't know if that's right, but I definitely want to try it. Probably a better tech card here is going to be the Scar. We're running the Adam Warlock as well. I do think this is right. We have Psylocke to be able to bump up and play one of our 5 costs a little bit earlier. We have the fallback game plan of just going like call on 4, hopefully Thanos or Devil D on 5, and then roll into a big drop on 6. Mockingbird is going to discount herself quite heavily off of the stones. So between Mockingbird and Phastos, we're looking really solid. You can easily twist this deck around to be able to play a lower energy curve where you're dropping more 1s, and then you're going to have like Blue Marvel and some zoo effects, even Gilgamesh in here. a lot of flexibility out of the Thanos, and I think that what he's been missing up till now is something like Phastos that's going to upgrade all of these stones and make them hit harder. That's what has really been taking Thanos back, is before the effects on the stones was really able to carry them, and now I'm just feeling like I wish my stones were a little bit more powerful, or obviously I wish they were free. And Phastos is doing that, exactly what the doctor ordered. Jubilee in here as well for now. So it's just a suite of cards that I think are going to be good with Phastos and have generally been good with Thanos as well. And then the flexibility of Thanos himself just alone, with all of the compounding effects from the stones, being able to counter lockdown decks, I'm seeing as a nice flex and an advantageous matchup for this deck that most other decks are still going to suffer from. So you guys are going to have to let me know in the comments where you guys decide to take Phastos and where you find the most success with him. Also, if I missed any callouts in terms of synergies or counters, would love to chat everything Snap down in the comments with you guys. Stay tuned to the channel. You know we're going to be testing this card right on release on both YouTube and Twitch, trying to find that best deck to be able to climb with this bad boy. Till next time, thank you guys for watching. Keep on snapping.